The problem is, can you get the American people to say this is really important and force their representatives to do the right thing? That requires mobilizing a citizenry. That requires them understanding what is at stake. And climate change is a great example. When I was asked earlier about the issue of coal, under my plan of a cap and trade system, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. Even regardless of what I say about whether coal is good or bad, because I'm capping greenhouse gases, coal power plants, natural gas, you name it, whatever the plants were, whatever the industry was, they would have to retrofit their operations. That will cost money. They will pass that money on to consumers.
Alternatives including coal, or
let me sort of describe my overall policy. I mean, what I've said is that we would put a cap and trade system in place that is as aggressive, if not more aggressive, than anybody else's out there. I was the first to call for 100% auction on the cap and trade system, which means that every unit of carbon or greenhouse gases was emitted would be charged to the polluter. That will create a market in which whatever technologies are out there that are being presented, whatever power plants that are being built, that they would have to meet the rigors of that market and the ratcheted down caps that are imposed every year. So if somebody wants to build a coal power plant, they can. It's just that it will bankrupt them because they're going to be charged a huge sum for all that greenhouse gas that's being emitted. That will also generate billions of dollars that we can invest in solar, wind, biodiesel, and other alternative energy approaches. The only thing that I've said with respect to coal, I haven't been some coal booster. What I have said is that for us to take coal off the table as an ideological matter, as opposed to saying if technology allows us to use coal in a clean way, we should pursue it.
No coal plants here in America. Build them if they're going to build them over there. Make them clean because they're killing you. See you. Thank you.
So if somebody wants to build a coal power plant, they can. It's just that
appearing to blow up school children in front of their classmates is an unlikely way of trying to convince people to reduce pollution. But when British eco-campaigners try to put comedy into cutting carbon, it seems the joke backfired badly. It's tongue-in-cheek, this, but some of these scenes you might find quite gory indeed. It's coming up in a minute. The short film, scripted by the British writer behind 4 Weddings and a Funeral, led to complaints that it was sick and needlessly violent. It was created on behalf of the 1010 environmental campaign to spur people into reducing the carbon emissions by 10%. But its bloody images made it one of the most short-lived ad campaigns. Just waiting for one of it now. It was pulled from cinemas just hours before, there we go, before being released. What do you think of that? Well, the charity ActionAid, which originally backed the idea, said it was absolutely appalled. But Richard Curtis, for his part, said when you try to be funny on a serious subject, it's obviously risky. Well, I spoke to British meteorologist Piers Corbyn recently. He told me that environmentalists are hitting new depths with this ad.
Quick show of hands, everyone who wants to...
Suppose these images were directed against any ethnic or religious minority, like black people, gays or Jews, then there would be absolute international uproar. In fact, this man Curtis wouldn't have even thought of making the film. But somehow he thinks he can get away with it by attacking the children of people who happen to disbelieve in their fraudulent science and want evidence-based science. I mean, it is utterly unacceptable. They are arrogant, malevolent and dangerous people, and they have to be stopped. The message is a lie. They can only get it across by this sort of nonsense. I mean, you see, those people are facing cuts like everyone else, and sooner or later the public is going to get it clear. The fact is, there's failed science, and fraudulent data behind them. So they've got no defence other than this emotional blackmail, hysteria and lies, and they have to be stopped. Climate change is natural. Extreme events in climate change are caused by the sun. Right? It's nothing to do with CO2. There's no connection between carbon dioxide and climate, and you can look at the data and see that no correlation at all for hundreds of years, thousands of years, or indeed millions of years. The relationship is with the sun and sun-lunar modulations, with which we predicted, for example, the Russian heat wave in the summer, and when it would end, and when the floods in Pakistan would end as well.
Tomorrow, a full committee hearing on cybersecurity. And this comes within our purview on this committee. And I mean, not trying to be dramatic about it, when the internet was invented, everybody fell flat in their face. They were so thrilled. And the world began to do business in a different way. Now, both the President Bush's Director of National Intelligence, Mike McConnell, who I greatly respect, and President Obama's Director of National Intelligence, Admiral Blair, who I greatly respect, have labeled cybersecurity perpetrated through the internet as the #1 national hazard of attack on the homeland in West Virginia, in America, or anywhere else. So, I mean, it really almost makes you ask the question, would it have been better if we never invented the internet and had to use paper and pencil or whatever? And that's a stupid thing to say, but it has genuine consequence, because it's on the internet that these acts of shutting down, you know, they have the television saying that, ads every day saying that the Department of Defense is attacked 3 million times a day. And it's true. Everybody is attacked. Anybody can do it. People say, well, it's China and Russia, but there could be, you know, some kid in Latvia doing the same thing. I mean, it's an individual act. It doesn't require a sleeper cell. It doesn't require any, you know, ammonia or explosives. It's just an act. And yet it's an act which can shut this country down. Shut down its electricity system, its banking system, shut down really anything that we have to offer. It is an awesome problem. On the Intelligence Committee, we were taken for a full day to discuss, to a undisclosed place in Virginia to discuss this. It is a fearsome, awesome problem, so to speak. I mean, obviously it's broader than that too. I wonder where this stands with you, what your thoughts are, and what you think we ought to be doing about it.
Senator, cybersecurity is obviously of utmost importance.
State of the Union with Candy Crowley, CNN Sunday Morning, 9 Eastern.
You have an internet bill. It's been called the Killswitch bill that would allow the president to seize control or shut down portions of the internet if the U.S. was under some sort of cyber attack. I don't know if you've seen the internet lately. There's a lot of people out there who think that what you are granting the president is absolute power to shut down freedom of speech. I mean, this is just over the top.
No way. And total misinformation. I don't know whether people are intentionally peddling the misinformation. Here's the fact. Cyber war is going on in some sense right now. Our civilian infrastructure, the internet that runs the electric grid, the telecommunications grid, transportation, all the rest is constantly being probed by nation states, by some terrorist groups, by organized criminal gangs. And we need this capacity in time of war. We need the capacity for the president to say, internet service provider, we've got to disconnect the American internet from all traffic coming in from another foreign country, or we've got to put a patch on this part of it. The president will never take over, the government should never take over the internet. And listen, we've consulted, Senator Collins and I are proposing this bill with civil liberties and privacy experts. This is a matter of national security. A cyber attack on America can do as much or more damage today by incapacitating our banks, our communications, our finance, our transportation as a conventional war attack. And the president, in catastrophic cases, not going to do it every day, not going to take it over. So I say to my friends on the internet, relax. Take a look at the bill. And this is something that we need to protect our country. Right now, China, the government, can disconnect parts of its internet in the case of war. We need to have that here too.
Civil libertarians and cybersecurity experts are raising eyebrows about a proposed law giving the president a virtual kill switch on the internet. The bill has some provisions for private sector involvement, but not other branches of government. National correspondent Catherine Harridge has the story of what some people feel is another example of big brotherism. We report, you decide.
8 years ago this month, as America came under attack, then President Bush grounded all aircraft around the country. No one knew, not even the government, when the next team of al-qaeda hijackers would strike. Under a new piece of legislation being considered by the Senate, it is this type of emergency where President Obama might limit American access to the internet.
There are already provisions, I believe, and most of the folks in the business and the government believe, that give the powers to the president that allow him to effectively do what needs to be done in times of national emergency. The real ambiguity is what's the tripwire for making it a national emergency?
And that is the sticking point, according to critics, about the Cybersecurity Act of 2009, sponsored by Senator Jay Rockefeller, Democrat of West Virginia. A revamped version of the legislation would allow the president to declare a cybersecurity emergency relating to non-governmental computer networks, and it would allow the president to do what is necessary to respond. But the question remains: cybersecurity emergency, and would it allow the government to reach as far as your home computer?
The bill is actually an improvement over the original version of the bill.
Greg Nojam is the senior counsel for the Center for Democracy and Technology, a group that wants the internet to remain open, innovative, and free.
That the president can tell agencies what they ought to do. But when it comes to the president directing the private sector, well, that does raise not only competitive concerns, but significant civil liberties concerns as well.
It was just last summer that the worst-case scenario played out. As Russian tanks rolled into Georgia, a silent and some analysts say more damaging attack was being waged on the internet to cripple the Georgian government's ability to communicate and effectively respond. It is this type of 21st century attack, likely in the future, which is why analysts say the government must clarify the lines of authority. So does it amount to Big Brother?
I would be troubled if the president did not have some sort of emergency powers, and so I applaud the effort. But again, there needs to be caution. We are applying familiar terms with unfamiliar definitions.
A spokeswoman for Senator Rockefeller says the bill will not empower a, quote, government shutdown or takeover of the internet, adding that any suggestion otherwise is misleading. Rockefeller's office emphasized that the president has always had the constitutional authority to direct the nation's response in an emergency. In Washington, Catherine.